Hello, 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 everybody, and welcome to another adventure in history. I'm your host, Shane McInnes, weird dude that knows crazy capitals of the world, all sorts of poop-related historical facts. This is my lovely wife, Dr. Brittany McInnes, much smarter than I am, much better looking than I am, much nicer than I am, all-around better person than me. She is here tonight with us to help us discuss our topic. It's our topic, right? We have all chosen. I didn't actually vote, but you, our viewers. Hello, Fit. How's it going? Hey, Superb.
Hello.
So, a little bit about the show. This is Adventures in History. The purpose of the show is to try to defunkify the concept of history, try to make it a little bit more appealing, a little bit more fun, a little bit less stodgy, a little bit less 80-year-old white guy muttering to himself about how things were better back then. Hey, KP. What's up? Jim Bob. How's it going? How's everybody? I hope everybody's having a good day. It has been an interesting one. Anytime you have to go out for groceries in the land of COVID, it's a thing.
We have good news from our state.
Yes, we are changing our flag with caveats. One of the caveats being that it has to include "In God We Trust," which is potentially a whole other thing. But moving in the right direction. There's an opossum flag floating around that actually is my favorite for the option. So if you go to Google and Google search Mississippi possum, don't use the O, Mississippi possum flag, you can see, oh, Tater signed the bill. Awesome. Tater, by the way, is a loving, finger quote, loving nickname for our state governor, whose name is Tate Reeves, who very much resembles a potato. So there's that. He's an interesting guy. LOL Tater. Yeah, he's a tater. So here is my wife, but here on the screen is my email address. Yep, Kyle, this is Brittany.
Hey, Kyle.
McInnestrtravels@gmail.com, my email address if you have anything that you ever want to send my way. Ask opinions on, get background on, stuff that you think that I might just like to read, or just sending me hate mail. I'll read hate mail. You can also follow me at Some History Guy on Twitter and Instagram for controversy-free historical stuff. Also interesting historical stuff, but you can be controversial. Yeah, I've got a Star Wars shirt on, and Brittany has the Black Axe shirt on. Gotta love the nerd stuff. It runs strong in this house. And the puppy is over here curled up on her couch, of course, licking, because, that's what the puppy does. But anyway, on Tuesdays, usually every other Tuesday, but because of some birthday-related material, we decided that, I decided that I would do 2 of these in a row, and we're actually going to do 3 in a row, because we're going to do another viewer request next week. And this is the topic that everybody chose, which is leprosy in the ancient world, which brings us to our show title, which is always a bad pun. Things Fall Apart. It was totally nepotism, but she's very cute, so... I mean, what am I going to say? No? Things Fall Apart, by the way, actually reference to both a really decent, really good novel by a guy named Chinua Achebe, and a really decent poem by a dude named William Butler Yeats. The poem, by the way, is called Second Coming, but there's a line in there that things fall apart. The falcon cannot hear the falconer, and the center cannot hold, and all of that stuff. Yeah. So, because we're dealing with a bacteriological plague-typed weird science-y thing, I decided that I would have my wife, who is a doctor...
A mad scientist.
One lab accident away from ruling the world. Also,
I tried to drink as many chemicals as I could.
uh,
No superpowers yet.
so Brittany has a doctorate in microbiology and has spent many years playing around with bacteria and yeast cells and all sorts of little buggers. Dr. McInnes, yeah, that's her. So I'm actually going to turn the floor over to her to get us kicked off, and she's going to talk both about leprosy and how it's spread and how it affects us, and has all sorts of much smarter and better prepared pictures than I usually do, which is going to make me look pretty bad. So, Dr. McInnes.
All right. Hey, everybody. So I'm the in-house biology nerd. He's the history nerd. I was glad to come in here and take over his stream and talk about some crazy biology stuff. Of course, I have no idea what I'm doing.
That's what I'm here for, though.
Yes. All right. So,
Pictures?
yeah, how do I work this crazy thing?
If you want pictures, well, here I can just do it like this.
Okay.
Okay, so we've got pictures.
Pictures. And, like, do I use the arrows to go back and forth?
Yeah, like...
Okay, cool. I think I could do this. I can do this.
We believe in you.
Woohoo! Somebody does. All right, so we are talking about leprosy. Such a fun topic. Leprosy is actually caused by a bacterium. The bacterium name being Mycobacterium leprae, and I can spell that out for you whenever the photos are done. Okay, yeah, I'll wait till I'm done with the photos. So Mycobacterium leprae is actually kind of a fun genus because it's kind of weird. It's more weird than other types of bacteria. And by the way, I'm trying to not to go too deep into the science. I'm kind of touching upon, like, I guess more advanced science, just because I think it's cool. But if there's anything you don't understand or you have any questions about anything, then feel free to ask questions in the chat, and Shane will poke me and say, "Hey, you're being way too."
Hey, Vanities.
Hello. All right, so Mycobacterium leprae is the organism. So within the genus Mycobacterium, there we go. This is why I married him.
Pro streamer.
So Mycobacterium leprae. So it is related to another Mycobacterium. You may have heard of it, or well, you can guess from the name, which is Mycobacterium tuberculosis, which is the causative agent of tuberculosis. So since they're in the same genus, they share some of the same characteristics. So one of the weird things about this genus, so we'll go back to the photos now. So most bacteria have either one or two types of cell walls, gram-negative or gram-positive, and that's based on the results of a staining technique, which is called gram staining. So you can see here.
You can move the mouse around, and
cool.
it will show you.
So it's really kind of based on the thickness of this layer that's called peptidoglycan. Basically, it's just a big net that surrounds the bacteria, and it kind of traps the stain, which is it's a crystal violet strain, which is purple. So gram-positive cells will be purple. Whereas, and I forgot to mention this beforehand, but when you go to look at bacteria under a microscope, under a light microscope, they're actually invisible. So that's why we need to stain them so that we can see them.
Hey, Arcadian.
Hello.
Hey, David.
gram negatives, they won't take up that crystal violet stain, so they'll still be invisible. So we have to use what's called a counter stain. It's usually safranin, which is a pink colored stain. However, mycobacteria are tricky because so at the end of that staining technique, they'll still be invisible. And that is because they have this really thick layer. It's basically wax. It's called mycolic acids. And that keeps that stain from going through. So you actually have to use a specialized staining technique for these guys. It's called acid-fast staining. And it's actually kind of a very nasty process. But one thing about this waxy layer, so it is kind of has an effect on its behavior, its ability to cause infection. So having all that wax, as you can imagine, is going to keep a lot of germicides, like bleach and stuff like that from killing it. So it is hard to get rid of. But as we'll see later, it's not that big of a deal because these guys are actually kind of weenies when it comes to fending for themselves out in the environment, because they actually require a host to get their nutrients. So if we go into the next... Excuse me.
Sorry, I'm going crazy with the buttons here.
All right, so these guys are actually really difficult to culture, and that actually makes it really hard to study them. So that's kind of disappointing because I really actually did want to dive really deep into the pathology of
I really
of the
wanted
infection.
to talk a whole lot about these weird infection things and how it destroys you.
I really wanted to send you all into a stupor and but yeah, like I said, it's really hard to grow these guys. So one of the reasons is actually kind of cool. When you compare the genome, so which is like the basically all of the DNA, all of the genes that organism has. When you compare the genome of Mycobacterium leprae to its cousin Mycobacterium tuberculosis, you find that Mycobacterium leprae has actually dumped most of its genome, especially a lot of the genes that are related to nutrient acquisition and metabolism.
What does all of that mean?
Okay, so basically it can't make its own food.
Is it like the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park?
Uh,
I know that's lysine dependent, but basically what you're saying is this thing has a hard time living
yeah,
outside
it is
of
kind
a
of
body.
like that. So,
But does nature find a way?
nature could possibly find a way, and that might be what's coming up in August of 2020.
Plague armadillos.
Yes. Well, we're getting to the armadillos next. That might be part of August 2020. Yeah, so these guys are heavily dependent on their host for nutrients. Otherwise, they can't make their own. So one of the other reasons why it's really hard to grow these guys is they grow very, very slowly. They have a doubling time. So a doubling time is the amount of time that it takes for a bacteria to double in population, because these guys, they reproduce by binary fission, which is, as you could probably guess, is just dividing in half. So where there was once one bacteria, now there's two. And that takes a certain amount of time because they have to, reproduce their DNA so that each cell has its own genome and all these makes all the proteins and stuff like that. There's a process that they have to go through. But so as a comparison, something like E. coli takes 20 minutes to double. So you could literally you can make a bucket of E. coli in a couple of days. So Mycobacterium...
Bucket of E. coli sounds like a really bad 90s grunge band. Hey, we're Bucket of E. coli.
Buckets of E. coli would also be incredibly stinky because E. coli, they come from your poop, and that's, I think, one of the reasons why they smell so bad. But Mycobacterium leprae has a doubling time of about 2 weeks. So 20 minutes, 2 weeks, that's a big difference. And one of those reasons that it takes so long is because it prefers lower temperatures. Around 33 degrees Celsius is the optimal. So as a reference, the human core body temperature is 37 degrees Celsius.
33 degrees Celsius is about 90 or 91 degrees Fahrenheit.
Can we go back to the images? All right, so this picture right here, so this is meant to kind of illustrate another reason why they're really hard to grow in culture and do research on. And that's because you can't actually culture these guys on normal bacterial media. So the image here, all the way to the left, this is a kind of solid media. And you can see all those little dots. Those are actually individual bacterial colonies. As in most bacteria, you can find some sort of culturing media to grow them in. However, as I explained before, the Mycobacterium leprae, it has to have a living host to grow in. So there is no culture media that you can make to grow these things in mass. So the only way that
I do hate colonization. That doesn't mean that I like leprosy, though.
So the only way that you can grow these guys is in a living organism. And of course, we don't want to grow them in humans. That would be mean. But pretty much humans and some other organisms are the only ones that the leprosy organism can grow in. So one way, and David Peterson may not be too hot on this one, but is injecting the foot pads of mice. And then just kind of harvesting all the little bacteria that come out of it. But the best way to grow a big quantity of these bacteria are in armadillos, which I did not know that. I guess armadillos are just run rampant with leprosy. So if you see an armadillo, do not go hug it, because you might contract leprosy.
You heard it here first.
Yeah. No hugging armadillos. Social distancing. Always.
Opossums are okay, though, right?
As far as I know. Actually, from what I've seen, armadillos are the only natural reservoir of these bacteria. And a lot of it comes down to the fact that it has this lower body temperature, which is ideal for these guys to grow in. All right, so the next thing that I was just going to talk about is like how leprosy is transmitted. You can throw it up there. I don't care.
No, we don't want to blow that out. We don't want to constantly have that showing up there. We want to talk about this.
That's our money shot.
No, don't even use that phrase.
Oh, I'm terrible.
Yeah.
Okay, so how is leprosy transmitted? So it can be transmitted by handling armadillos, and there have actually been an increasing number of cases attributed to like eating armadillos or even like using armadillo-based merchandise. Apparently that's a thing. So, if somebody gives you an armadillo belt for Christmas, just throw it in the trash, thoroughly pour some bleach on whatever.
On all of the affected area.
Whatever part of your body touched it. So we're not like entirely solid on how it gets transmitted. We're pretty sure that the main way is through respiratory droplets. So from person to person. There might be also some skin-to-skin contact that might be transmitted. That might transmit it. Another way, not I guess is somewhat more alarming, but these guys can be found in the soil, especially in areas that are known for leprosy outbreaks.
So, like, I could go dig around in the dirt in India and catch leprosy.
That's quite possible.
Oh, man.
Well, okay. So the next section will, well, I guess the first part of the next section will kind of calm you down a little bit. So actually, less than 1% of the people that come in contact with leprosy, the leprosy organism, actually come down with the disease. And before I started doing this research, I would have thought that, especially in the ancient world, that just, people in the ancient world didn't get enough food and maybe had a compromised immune system. But apparently that may not be a factor in whether or not you develop leprosy symptoms. Because I saw one study that looked at people that have HIV. They don't have any higher susceptibility to getting leprosy. But some studies have shown that genetic factors might actually contribute to whether or not you get this disease.
So is there like a leprosy gene?
Well, it's actually, they found that people that have certain alleles, by the way, so getting into my biology.
Warning, genetics.
Esoteric, throwing around these big sciencey words. But an allele is basically like a different version of a gene. So you have one gene, but you can have different versions. For instance, like flower color, you can have white flowers or purple flowers. It's the same gene that's controlling that. It's just you have different versions.
It's like a variant cover in a comic.
Right. I guess.
Did you get the Peterson variant of that?
But people that have certain alleles, it's called the PARC2 and PAC-RG gene. I think they're in a gene family. But it's interesting because having these alleles has been associated with developing Parkinson's disease. So that there might be a link there between Parkinson's disease, where you get neurodegeneration, and leprosy, where you also are getting... And I'll talk more of the pathology of that.
It does suck.
Yes, Parkinson's, I don't know why I can't say that. It very much does suck. And leprosy. It's all diseases pretty much suck. So another interesting thing about this, about leprosy, like once you're exposed to it, it could actually take years before you start to see symptoms. I think it was the WHO's website said that the average is about 5 years to develop symptoms. The maximum that's been reported is 20 years. So I'm done with the part that makes you feel a little bit better, that it's very unlikely that you'll get it. But if you've been exposed, you might know it. You might be walking around with it and will develop it in a couple of years. Good luck.
If you're carrying it, can you transmit it to other people, even if you're not showing symptoms?
I wouldn't think so. Which I'm not the leprosy expert.
You're the leprosy expert in the room.
But just from what I know of my pathogenic microbiology courses, like you do need like a certain quantity of bacteria or virus. You need to be exposed to a certain quantity to develop symptoms. Like if you're if you're not showing symptoms, you probably don't have a lot of bacteria in your body. You aren't shedding it. Because like if you get exposed to just a few microbes, then your immune system can usually handle that. But if you get exposed to a big load, if you're licking leper,
okay. Yeah, let's just
leper skin lesions.
I get the unfortunate image here.
Yeah, that's too much. Too
that's
many bacteria.
Way too far. That's way too far. Sorry I didn't do a shout out earlier, but we do have really great streamers in the room. David Peterson, who managed to actually get the Streamlabs shout out to work. Also, Daria Axonova Art. I don't know what the devil is up with Streamlabs. I literally deleted it and re-added it earlier, so I don't know what's going on. Hey, there we go. Maybe it's on a timer. Yeah, and I can't spit it out so quickly. No, lick the armadillos is bad.
Yeah, licking armadillos is also not a good idea.
Don't lick the armadillos. This is like the don't lick the hypnotoads, or what was it? No, there was some episode. Was it Family Guy? Family Guy had the licking the frogs thing, but the hypnotoad is from Futurama. Yeah, there we go. Thanks, Dave.
I would say try not to lick any animal that you just come across.
All right. Warning everybody, we're going to show a couple of pictures here of people with leprosy, and it's kind of gross, so if you're a little squeamish, look away.
I tried to pick the mild. I mean, there's not like pus and...
Okay, yeah, let's just describe the grossness. Here we go. Incoming leprosy pictures.
Okay, so now we're talking about the symptoms of leprosy, which a lot of people might be familiar just by watching movies about based in ancient times. So these guys, like I said, they like cooler temperatures, so they tend to kind of invade the extremities or these cooler regions of your body. They're not going to be found in your gut or something like that. I guess all the problems, they tend to be on your skin, especially like your fingers and toes. Also your mucosal, like the lining of your nose and your mouth.
Everybody wants to hear about mucosal membranes.
It's got to come up.
Yes, saunas. Yeah. Would a sauna wipe them out? Like if you went and sauna'd yourself?
I would imagine it would take a long time.
Okay, so maybe sauna is not the go-to calm heart.
and we'll see later when we kind of go into the pathology that these guys can actually hide in your cells.
Oh, super! You're back to freaking me out again.
Yeah. It's like a roller coaster.
Okay, so can we skip off this grossness?
Oh yeah, I mean if it's making people queasy.
Well, I don't know who all's out there, and I want to try to be, I guess, I don't know, accommodating. It's kind of gross looking, man. It's and you didn't even see all the stuff that I had to look through.
Oh. I taught microbiology labs for nursing students, so I saw all the things. I'm immune to it now.
I'm still very sheltered.
Yeah, so as I said, you get these lesions on your skin, but you one of the things that you don't really see is they also infect the peripheral nerves. So people that have people that develop leprosy, they first start losing sensation, ability to feel like cold and hot. And of course, if this is left untreated, then it can lead to neuropathy, where the nerves start dying. And that so that is one of the reasons. If you want to bring up the image, so that's one of the next one.
Oh, the next one.
Yeah, that was just more symptom stuff.
Schwan. Game on.
You might want to. Can we zoom
I don't
that
think you
in?
can zoom it in. Nope.
Oh, okay.
You did not give me a zoomable image.
Oh, sorry. Well, if just
I
take
can try. Nope, not gonna
squint and take my word for it. So these guys have an affinity for infecting nerve cells, especially they're called Schwann cells, which are these little purple cells that surround the nerve cells.
Are they actually purple?
No.
Okay.
It's just in the picture. I have no idea what color they really are.
Schwann Lake.
Okay.
I've come to see the Schwans.
Do you see what I have to deal with, guys?
Welcome to the Rock.
So this infection of these Schwann cells actually leads to what's called demyelation. So like this this kind of coating that surrounds the nerve cells is made up of myelin. So when these guys get infected, that myelin kind of decays and falls off, which leaves like a raw nerve that can be kind of not sensitive, but vulnerable to attack by the host own immune system, and that's actually where a lot of the damage comes from in this disease. So you see, or people have heard of parts falling off of people that have leprosy. That's kind of one of the hallmarks of it, and it's because of this tissue damage that is mediated by inflammation from the host. The host-on reaction.
So David says that's also a Parkinson's thing with the myelin decay. Could that be anything related to maybe like certain people just having a genetic issue where that myelin is not as, I guess, like rigorous or tough? So that would be why it gets Parkinson's more easily and why leprosy would affect it more?
I don't know.
Okay, that's fine.
Just because I'm not an expert in Parkinson's. I should be, because one of the labs that was in the graduate school, in the same graduate school, they actually did study Parkinson's, and I unfortunately have forgotten everything from going to all of their talks. But I do know that Parkinson's is a really terrible disease. I would imagine, like, if there were a link, I would imagine like the genetic link would maybe, at least when we're talking about leprosy, not Parkinson's itself, but maybe having that certain allele allows the bacterium to invade and infect those nerve cells more readily. That would be my guess. So I have not done the research into it.
So is that accurate where KP says the body inflames itself to pieces?
Exactly. I was about to go into like the immune response. So in addition to kind of infiltrating the nerves, I had one more thing to say about the nerves. So you have this inflammation that's causing damage, but also since you're losing sensation, like you can't feel if you're touching something hot or if you bang your hand or against something, and that's another reason why you get a lot of damage and tissue death, is because you can't feel that you're injuring yourself. So in addition to the immune response, so another reason that you get the immune system kind of attacking your own tissues, your own body, is because the mycobacterium actually can invade other cells, actually cells that are part of the immune system, especially macrophages, and I think they're called dendrites.
What are those?
So macrophages, and I don't think they're dendrites. I think they're...
Dendrites is like part of the brain thing, isn't it?
Don't quote me on that. But anyway, so the cells that it actually infects are part of what is called the innate immune system. So the immune system is incredibly complicated, and I will not go into all of the facets.
She's
of the
tried
immune
to explain
system.
it, and I mean, I'm not...
Even immunologists, like, that's their specialty. Like, they're just like, no, this is hairy.
KP, I think we're going to talk about treatment in a bit.
Yes, I am getting to that. All right, so innate immune system, this is basically the part of the immune system that doesn't depend on antibodies. So antibodies are kind of used to identify, like, hey, we've seen this before and this is bad. We need to attack that. And it actually elicits a faster immune response, which is why vaccination works to protect you, because it makes you have those antibodies. But in the innate immune system, basically these cells, most of them are what are called phagocytic, which means that they just eat stuff. They eat it whole. They just recognize stuff like that. Like, hey, you're not supposed to be here. I'm going to eat you. Yeah, so eat first, ask questions later. That's what these guys do. And this is actually kind of a common kind of strategy for bacteria that can hide from the immune system, is they'll actually get eaten by these phagocytic cells. But then they can kind of turn off the pathways that lead to digestion of the bacteria. So they get eaten and then they kind of live there.
It's like living in the belly of a whale.
Yeah, kind of.
Except that you're killing the whale.
Yes, you're active. So these guys are not only are they living there, they're actually actively growing in these macrophages. So, of course, the immune system they do, I guess, do eventually recognize that these cells are infected. Maybe not so much because recognize the bacteria, but maybe these macrophages are doing something weird. Like they're kind of outgrowing the tissue, which is not supposed to happen in a regular situation, and then they attack them. So, yep. All right, treatment. So, good news. It's a roller coaster. Good news, bad news, good news. Here's some more good news. So this leprosy, at modern times, not so much ancient times, but in modern times, it is curable.
We'll talk about how ancient people tried to fix this stuff later on.
Of course, the treatments for this kind of came about, I think, like in the 1960s. But the treatment for this is kind of similar to treating tuberculosis. You have a multi-drug combo. The usual ones they're called Dapsone. Are you writing this down? Rifampicin.
Scoop you a little bit. Because you're flying off and you got like half your face on the screen.
But you see my hands though. I'm gesticulating.
Talk with your hands. No, I'm not squeamish, Daria. The thing about biology that always gets me just weirded is how complex all this stuff is, and it's the same kind of thing with space, like how big space is and how crazy all that stuff is, and it just blows my brain. The way that this stuff works on this tiny little like microcosm level where everything is like at war with each other, it just kind of like I don't know, like the more I learn about it, the more I don't want to know about it, because like I'm feeling bad. Now my brain knows all of this stuff that's happening inside of me, and I wonder which one of those things is goofed up right now.
I'm looking at Vanity Falls comment, and now I'm kind of beating myself in hindsight. I should have used puppets, especially with the macrophages like eating. And then Kelsey Preacher, you said, "Oh, it sounds kind of easy."
I'm Spartacus.
Oh, thank you, Daria.
I'm Spartacus.
I am Spartacus.
I'm Spartacus. I'm Spartacus. I'm Spartacus. I'm Spartacus.
I am Spartacus.
Spartacus.
Thank you, Daria. You are awesome. Many thanks. Everybody go follow and subscribe to Daria too.
Anyway, I saw another comment by Killjoy Preacher, like, "Oh, it sounds easy, like the treatment." And it actually isn't. It actually takes like 6 to 12 months worth of treatment, and there have been some reportings of drug resistance. So, yay!
So, can we fix ourselves or not?
Well, another, I guess, silver lining is so there is a vaccine that's against. It's not actually against tuberculosis. But it's actually against cow tuberculosis.
We've got swine flu, we got bird flu, and now we've got cow tuberculosis.
Yes.
Is it really a completely different line?
It is a completely different species. It's Mycobacterium bovis. But apparently you can catch tuberculosis from cows. But I think you have to be injected with it. And the only reason I know that is because when they were developing the vaccine...
They missed a perfect example to call that muberculosis. I mean, that's great.
This is why scientists don't let lay people name stuff. We found that out with Bodie McBoatface.
Bodie McBoatface is awesome.
It was supposed to be a research vessel.
Tuberculosis. There's another perfectly good one right there.
You call it whatever you want to call it.
I'm going to stick with muberculosis.
Just don't put that in a publication.
I'm pretty sure that would get peer reviewed out.
Yeah. Anyway,
utterly shameful.
The muberculosis vaccine does show some protection against leprosy. So good news. But of course, it's really only used in areas where leprosy is a big deal. All right, last part, and then I'll shut up and I'll hand it off to Shane. I was only intending to talk 15 minutes because I was like, oh, I talk really fast.
That's okay. I only planned for half an hour.
Cool.
Because I figured. You gotta go over here. All right. Boom shakalaka.
All right, and this is like a nice little segue into the history of leprosy, but kind of a sciencey spin to it. So this is a nice figure from a paper that was done, I think, is 2006. But anyway, they.
I don't think anybody's going to try to look up your citations.
I can provide my citations if anybody would like them. Anyway, so this group looked at some mycobacterium. So they looked at the genome of Mycobacterium leprosy samples from different parts of the world and did comparative genomics and found several, they're called SNPs, or SNPs, which stands for single nucleotide polymorphism. And that's just a big fancy word for saying...
You done mixed up a letter.
Right. So if anybody has watched CSI and know anything about DNA, it's just made up of 4 nucleotides, which are represented by letters, C's, G's, A's, and T's. So a single, so if you're going along the DNA strand that makes up your genome, and if you look at 2 different varieties.
Arcadia, that's amazing. I'm sorry.
I saw that too. Anyway, so if you look at 2 different variations of the same species, you can get some differences. And if it's in just one nucleotide difference, it's just a single nucleotide polymorphism or SNP. So they found these SNPs in these different strains from around the world, and based on so they can kind of line these up and kind of match it to whatever population it came from, and kind of determine which one is the oldest strain. And this is kind of a whole other thing which I will not go into, kind of making a whole parsimonious tree, and I'll shut up about that now. So basically...
you had me at parsimonious.
And this is a nice little graphic because it matches up the particular SNP with the area that it came from. And of course, it also has it lined up in kind of chronological order. So you can see from this that the leprosy most likely originated in. Actually, they don't have it in chronological order. So this is the original strain, the orange one. I don't know why they have it up top like that. That's kind of confusing. All right, so anyway, it originated most likely in East Africa and the Middle East. And it followed human migration patterns into Asia and to Europe.
I told you migration patterns were important.
They are indeed. And now and it's always nice when you have and Shane could probably tell you a lot more about this, but historians are actually delving into the world of molecular biology and using DNA evidence to kind of delve into history and back up some of these hypotheses.
For those of you that are interested and maybe did not catch earlier streams, we did talk about human migration on a much earlier stream called "Are You Suggesting Hominins Migrate?" So if you want to learn more about human migration, go check that out.
So one other thing I was going to kind of mention here is that leprosy is mostly an old world disease. It was not introduced into the New World until about 500 years ago. It actually came over in two waves. So it came over initially with the Europeans. And then it came over from a different population in West Africa with the slave trade. And it landed here in the Caribbean. And Shane could tell you a lot more about that. And I'm going to shut up now.
But you don't have to shut up.
I'm going to sit here and listen quietly.
You can sit here and make sarcastic comments like I did. Are you going to do it just to spite me now? I mean, you got to have some running commentary, right? So, thank you. Before we move on to what I would consider maybe my points or my part, does anybody have any questions better suited for Brittany to answer prior to me going on?
David had a Peterson.
David had a Peterson.
David Peterson.
David had a Peterson the other day.
Oh my gosh, this is what happens when my brain works for more than half an hour. According to, I think it was the WHO, World Health Organization. I think in
Not the band.
No. I think it was in 2012, which a lot of this data is kind of older because it just takes some time to kind of collate everything. But in 2012, I think the worldwide numbers were a little under 200,000. So it's not crazy prevalent, but it's also not.
There are more people with COVID on Earth right now than there are with leprosy.
Yes.
Which is kind of a thing that we might want to talk about now that I'm actually saying that. Everybody's freaking out about leprosy. Like if you said, hey man, that guy got leprosy, people would freak the heck out. But there are more people alive right now with COVID than leprosy. Comparing it to COVID-19 isn't helpful. I'm just saying like the level of panic of leprosy.
But leprosy is going to affect my ability to take and post selfies.
Yeah, because if you lose your thumb.
That's priorities.
So what you mean is... we haven't cured leprosy. And the biggest concentrations of those are still in Asia, especially in India and China. In terms of
really kind of poverty-stricken areas of those countries.
Okay, so any other questions for Brittany? And as always, you can still continue to ask questions whenever you feel like Brittany she's not going to run away. Or at least I hope not. So
I'm just gonna fall asleep with my eyes open.
Just do that thing that Kyle does when he's on camera and just get really, really still, and you can't tell if I don't. Hey, what is this? Public Flourish Studio Visualization.
David Peterson knows me too well.
That's a lot of vodka she's drinking. Oh, yeah, I actually have seen that one. The number of people that have died.
This is actually just water.
Well, I want to know if I should cancel my order for an armadillo hair face mask. Probably. Yes, Brittany is Drax, and if she's very, very still, nobody will be able to see her. So, historically speaking, Brittany hit on a little bit of this already, that leprosy probably originated somewhere in either the northeastern corner of Africa or the Middle East, probably somewhere between 100,000 and 90,000 years ago, with the first big group that sort of moved out of Africa. There are 4 strains that were on that map that she just looked at. But I could get into a little bit more of like the technical kind of stuff. Like, why do we even call it leprosy? Well, it actually comes from a Greek word. The Greek word is lepra, which means scaly, which, if you know anything about the sores of leprosy, the leprosy can cause big sores and make your skin get all scaly. One of the things that is hard to do when we are looking back in time at leprosy is actually trying to figure out whether or not the stuff that people in the ancient world are calling leprosy is actually leprosy. Because we know today a lot more than they did, and we know that there are a lot of different skin diseases that cause your skin to get scaly, and that cause you to have sores. We know stuff like flesh-eating bacteria, which is in the Gulf of Mexico, which is why you should never go swimming in Mississippi. Just water. Yeah, usually, Kyle, she's standing right behind me to make sure that I click through all my pictures the right way. She's just being very, very still. I know that she's there because, I mean, she's my wife, but everybody else just kind of fuzzes out. So we don't always know whether or not the stuff that people in the ancient world is calling leprosy is actually leprosy. The only way that we really have an idea and know about this stuff is that we've dug up people from the past. We have run both archaeological, anthropological, and microbiological tests on their skeletons. Leprosy tends to leave certain marks, especially around your gum line. You can tell that the teeth have been exposed a lot more, that there are big abscesses on the jaw. You can tell that around the ball joints that the bone has been decayed by the leprosy. So even past the point of us doing stuff like genetic testing, which only goes about as far back as you can have, viable genetic material, we can still tell that people had leprosy. So we've been trying to trace this stuff through time. But leprosy in most of the ancient world for a very long time was sort of a catch-all term. So if you had any sort of skin disease that looked like leprosy, you probably got called a leper. Now, does that mean that everybody back at that time had leprosy? Almost certainly not. Stress-induced dermatitis, right. That kind of stuff would probably would get labeled as leprosy if you went to an ancient physician somewhere back in Egypt or Rome or anywhere around the ancient world that has this. Shane is talking about reptilians. Yes, the lizard people that live... Never mind, I've said too much. What I did decide to do is dig up some... Sunburn makes me... Oh, man. Sunburn is like the bane of my existence. I don't know if you can tell or not, but I'm like super pale. I basically... I get sunburned, I lose about 10 layers of skin, and I go right back to being pale. But yes, it very much could look like a leper there. Shane is now on an NSA watch list, alas. So, the oldest... You've never noticed my paleness. I've tried to keep it hidden. I wear a lot of bronzing agent when I go out. Anyway, the oldest chronological piece of evidence that we have for something that describes leprosy is this thing called the Ebers Papyrus. And I have lost my images. Where are my images? Come here. What's going on here? Oh, I'm clicking the wrong button, aren't I? Ha ha, dum-dum. Okay, so this thing right here is called the Ebers Papyrus. And it's called the Ebers Papyrus because it's in the collection of a guy named Ebers. Pro streamer. Yep, right-clicking when I should be left-clicking. I get -5 stream points for that. Anyway, this is, according to radiocarbon dating, about 1550 BC is when this originates. And we think that this has the oldest chronological reference to leprosy that we have discovered. And I've actually got a translation of that I can read for you. This is 1550 BC, description of leprosy, potentially. And it goes something like this. If you examine someone mortally ill, and his body is shrunken with the disease in extremis, if you examine him and you do not find disease in his body except for the surface of the ribs, the members which protrude like pills, you should then recite a spell against this disease in your house. You should also go and prepare for him the ingredients for treating it: bloodstone of elephantine, ground red grain, carob, cook it in oil and honey, and it should be eaten by him over 4 mornings for the suppression of his thirst and for curing of his mortal illness. So this is ancient Egypt, and this is how they cured leprosy, right? You grind up a whole bunch of grain and cook it with oil and honey, and you put bloodstones in it, and you give that to somebody, and that's how you're going to cure leprosy. Yeah, now we're talking spells, right? I love ancient spells, by the way. I know so many of those weird little ancient spells. I won't share them with you, though, unless somebody really wants them to.
What is a bloodstone?
A bloodstone of elephantine. So elephantine is an island. So this is 1550 BC, not 15,000 BC. So the early Calmhart, the oldest written language that we have, comes from about 2300 or 20. I'm sorry, not 2300. About 2600 BC in Sumer. The Egyptians had it about 100 years later in Egypt with the cool hieroglyphic stuff. Well, honey does help with some things, but probably not leprosy. I don't know. Anyway, Elephantine is an island that's in the Nile River, and it's actually highly religious and has a lot of religious purpose. Throwing out a random history fact for you here, there's actually a really big Jewish temple that was discovered on Elephantine Island. Pretty cool stuff. But anyway, the rocks there are valued for their healing properties.
Just the way it sounded like it was like a kidney stone passed by an elephant.
Go find a kidney stone passed by an elephant. Yeah, honey doesn't go bad because it has crap tons of sugar too. Curative properties. It's a bezoar, yeah. Shove a bezoar in his mouth. In case you're trying to drink poison honey mead wine and your redheaded friend gets it before you do. Honey contains hydrogen peroxide? Does it? It can crystallize, but it's still safe to eat. Interesting. Okay, so that was the Ebers Papyrus. We do have lots of other writings from way long time ago about leprosy. Another one is in the Atharva Veda. So if you'll remember when we were talking about Hinduism, one of the 4 Vedas that they consider sacred scripture is the Atharva Veda. And there's a passage that gives you a bit of a peek into how the people from India thought about leprosy, and I shall read it for you here. O plant, thou springest up at night, dusky, dark-colored black in hue. So Rajani, recolor these ashy spots, this leprosy. Expel the leprosy, remove from him the spots and thy ashy hue. Let thine own color come to thee, drive far away the specks of white. Dark is thy place of repose, dark is the place thou dwellest in. Dusky and dark, O plant, art thou? Remove from him each speck and spot. I, with my spell, have chased away the pallid sign of leprosy, caused by infection on the skin, sprung from the body, sprung from the bones. So this, by the way, is a hymn, so it would have actually been sung there would have been music set to this, and this is a hymn to banish leprosy from the Atharva Veda, which is from roughly around 1000 or so BC. Pretty cool stuff. The word, by the way, if you are super interested in looking up ancient references in Sanskrit, the word is kushtha. Yeah, my alarm is going off. Mwahaha. I have taken over the stream again. I've got an alarm on my phone that tells me that it's 7 o'clock and I should do stuff like, eat. I have to remind myself of these things these days. But the word kushtha in Sanskrit, kushtha, did I spell that right? Yes. No. Kushtha. So the Sanskrit word.
To wear pants.
The Sanskrit word actually translates to eating away. So in Sanskrit, when you describe leprosy, you describe it as the eating away disease. That should be on a greeting card. What should be on a greeting card? Oh, the hymn from the Atharva Veda. I don't know if the hymn against leprosy would sell very well in America. Maybe in India. There's a lot of leprosy over there still. So if you've ever read any of the Bible, of course, the Bible has a lot of mentions of leprosy in both the Jewish Tanakh and the Christian New Testament. There is a large passage of both treatment and diagnosis of leprosy in the book of Leviticus, which was written somewhere probably around 530 BC. So Leviticus 13 and 14, if you want to go check this out. I've got a passage here, but I won't read the entire 2 chapters because it would take a long time. So this is from what would happen if you suspected that you had leprosy. The leprous person who has the disease shall wear torn clothes and let the hair of his head hang loose, and he shall cover his upper lip and cry out, "Unclean, unclean." He shall remain unclean as long as he has the disease. He is unclean. He shall live alone. His dwelling shall be outside the camp. So even all the way back in the early BC time period that we would call the Iron Age, you still see people kind of having this very visual response to leprosy. And a lot of this is, again, because it's a very visual disease, right? If we have, if we have some sort of blood disease, it doesn't always show up. But leprosy is kind of hard to hide if you're having it. Welcome to my new Kushtha yoga studio. Ooh. I don't know if I'd go to that one or not. I mean, I like yoga and I'm pretty bendy, but I don't know if I could do the falling apart, eating away yoga. One of the most famous historical figures, if we're going to talk about any sort of medical thing, we're probably going to have to talk about Hippocrates. So Hippocrates, of course, ancient Greek guy. This is him. He is sort of known as the father of medicine in the Western world. How bendy? That's such a great question. I'm glad you asked that question. It's an important question, and I'm glad that people are interested in that. So Hippocrates is very big on diagnosing a lot of stuff and having a lot of exposure to diseases. He travels around a lot for most of his life. He lived from about 460 to about 370 BC. So pretty old guy by the time he died. He actually wrote some fairly widely renowned treatments for leprosy. This should not be taken to suggest that this actually works, but Hippocrates was such a widely known figure in the medical world of the time that pretty much anything that he wrote was going to be taken to heart. So in his book Epidemics, he says that to treat leprosy for scaly or white leprosy, you grind up gypsum and water and rub this on the skin and make sure that you don't cause ulceration. So you kind of like gravel it away, which, yeah, the Hippocratic Oath. There you go. That's named after that guy. He wrote a whole bunch of stuff. there's a fun little passage here that I'll share with you. You weren't in his classroom teaching streams where a guy was all but demanding him to put his foot behind his head. Yeah, that was a weird one. Daria knows about that, though, and she's poking fun at me. So here's another passage from the book Epidemics. In Larissa, which was a city in the ancient Greek world, the son of Theophorbus had leprosy in the bladder. And right away I want to stop and say, leprosy in the bladder. So again, is this really leprosy? Or is he using bladder to refer to another part of this guy? So think about that. Yeah, I'm very bendy. Anyway, he urinated sticky material and had pain at the beginning and end of urination and rubbed his male part because it hurt. When he drank the acrid diuretic, none of it went to the bladder, but he vomited a large quantity of pus and bile and passed more by the bowels. He had stomach pains and internal fever through the rest of his body, though the rest of his body was cold. He was entirely prostrate and was not willing to take anything. His intestines were ulcerated by the excessive strength of the drug. He died 3 days after the drought. So here's Hippocrates, gave this guy some stuff to take, and it didn't take. You can't save them all, right? There you go. Oh, dear. Yeah. So one more passage that I'll read for you. This is from a Chinese source called the Fengjian Zi, which is actually a book from the Qin dynasty. When we get back to Imperial China, we'll definitely talk about the Qin dynasty. But it was a book of legal reports. And most of the reports that you see in this book are people who are brought in front of a magistrate, and you have a little bit of a discussion about the crime of this person or the charge against this person and the magistrate's ruling, and then whatever happened to the person, right? This seems more like than leprosy. Yeah, it's probably that guy, Theoplorbus, probably didn't actually have leprosy. Floris upon, hey. I don't know what's going on with you. We're talking about leprosy. Yeah, he could have maybe had syphilis. So, again, this goes to that whole thing of we don't really know a lot about what these people actually had. Just because somebody called it leprosy doesn't mean that it actually is leprosy. Oh, yeah, your favorite. Awesome. I didn't know that leprosy was somebody's favorite. By the way, Superb, I hope that this is hitting all of the high points that you were after when you suggested this. And I mean that very genuinely. I really do hope that this is this is everything that you dreamed that it would be. So from this passage, the Fengjian Zi, what we actually have here is the chief who has a sick person brought in front of him, and it goes along this line. The chief of a village brought along a villager, a member of the rank and file. The denunciation reads, "I suspect leprosy, and have come and brought him along." So we questioned the villager. His statement read, "At the age of 3, I became sick with sores on my head, and my eyebrows swelled up. It could not be ascertained what sickness it was. I have no other liability." So we ordered a physician to examine him. The physician said, "He has no eyebrows." The bridge of his nose is destroyed. His nasal cavity is collapsed. If you prick his nose, he does not sneeze. Elbows and knees down to the soles of both of his feet are defective and are suppurating in one place. His hands have no hair. I ordered him to shout, and the chi of his voice was hoarse. It is leprosy. And what's actually super interesting about this, and completely unplanned, I had not actually looked over what Brittany presented prior to the stream. I just knew that she would do a good job. But what we have here in this ancient report is a lot of the symptoms that Brittany described, right? So it's attacking his extremis, so he doesn't have his nose or his nasal cavity. He's losing sensation, so he's getting poked in the nose and he isn't sneezing. All the way down to the bottom of his feet is messed up, and it's attacking his vocal cords. So what we get here is, boom, leprosy. Where in history are we? So we're actually kind of skipping around. Normally, well, I should say in the past, not necessarily normally, but in the past, our episodes sort of pick a topic or a specific period of time and discuss that. We've done a lot of stuff in the Bronze Age. We've talked about Slavic mythology. We've talked about Vlad the Impaler. We talked about the Maya and the Inca. Tonight, this is a viewer request episode, and the viewer request was to talk about leprosy. So we're talking about leprosy. There we go. For further reading and viewing, there's a Cadfael story called The Leper of St. Giles. There we are. So what we're really looking at here, though, is this disease was all over the place. And if you look at it in the ancient world, you're going to find a whole lot of pictures. So here's Hippocrates, but if you look anywhere in the medieval world, you're going to find lots of pictures that look like this. This is a medieval leper from somewhere in Europe. You can notice that he has little sores on his face, and he has his bell here. He's standing outside the walls of the city. And this is to let everybody know that, of course, he has leprosy. But the thing about it is, a lot of what we sort of think that's become ubiquitous with lepers wasn't actually the case. Of course, people are going to be freaked out because, again, you look like you're sick, right? You can't deny that you are sick when you look like you're sick. Yeah, it could just be bad acne. But it's hard to lie about this stuff. It was very difficult in the ancient world to treat this. And people in the ancient world thought that this was very easy to spread. And of course, that is going to lead to people forcing others into isolation. But originally, this was not really done in big colonies. So like if you know about leper colonies or you know about leper hospitals, in the largest part of the ancient world, you were just sort of set aside by yourself, kind of individual isolation. And you see this in all of the continents. So you see representatives of this, like staying out by yourself in Africa, Europe, Asia. Your bloody arm's off. No, it's not. Just but a scratch. Oh, that's what I should have named the episode tonight. Your bloody arm's off. Dang it. Why didn't I think of that earlier?
I like jaw-dropping facts, too.
Jaw-dropping? Oh, that's horrible. Yeah, already smarter than today's crowd, right? So you don't actually start seeing leper hospitals until, we're actually talking about Baldwin in just a bit. Bits and pieces, drop it like it's rot. Aww.
Yes. See, I'm telling you need to talk to people.
Maybe I should have a...
You always ask me, and I never have any good ideas.
You have good puns. I should crowdsource the title. I think I've done pretty well with most of the puns. Anyway, so you don't actually start seeing leper hospitals that are specifically designed to be leper hospitals until around the 900s AD. Prior to that, you usually would just have one or two individuals living typically outside the city walls or even out in the outskirts of the village. You didn't see big groups of people that were all mushed up together and set way out in the middle of the world. Well, look, it's not like it's U-All Stream. Well, I mean, I guess it kind of is U-All Stream. And usually when I worry about something being too far off base, I'll run it by somebody. But I recognize that you all have awesome ideas too, and I'm not trying to take away from that. Anyway, but you do start seeing a lot of this sort of colony thing pick up right around the 11 and 1200s. And this is going to be a lot due to the movement of people around the 11 and 1200s AD. For those of you that haven't watched the episodes that have not yet come out using your time machines yet, from about 1000 AD until about 1300 AD, there is a giant mass move of people all the way across Europe, Africa, and Asia. And lots of people are moving around. And when you see lots of people moving around, of course, you're going to have a lot of interaction, and you're going to start seeing things like disease spread. This is eventually going to wind up with stuff like the Black Plague in Europe, which actually comes all the way over from Africa and further over into Asia. So by about the 1200s, you're going to start seeing a lot of leper hospitals, but you're not really going to start seeing actual leper colonies that are set aside out on islands or really far out on the top of a mountain or in the middle of nowhere until around 1000, right around 1000 AD. But the Catholic Church is actually going to get into this pretty fast. And I found this really interesting, that there is actually a militant order of Catholic knights that were founded in 1199 AD called the Order of St. Lazarus the Leper. And these guys were founded in Jerusalem as a militant hospitaller order. And so their primary goal was to care for people that had leprosy. But if it was such the call of God, they would pick up that axe and beat the crap out of you with it. So we'll love you and chop your... Never mind, I'm not going to go there. Anyway, the Catholic Church, of course, is going to be very, very involved in this, and especially during... Nobody suspects the leper inquisition. Oh, man. Yeah, that's true. Anyway, so there's actually a Catholic belief that starts being propagated somewhere around that turn of the 11, 12, 1300s, that people that had leprosy were actually suffering from purgatory on earth. So it was believed that if you were a Christian leper and you died, you got the straight to heaven ticket and you didn't have to go to purgatory. Which is, I guess, good if... Yeah. You're dying on slowly on earth and you're suffering a lot, but at least you're going straight to heaven. It is what it is. So you start seeing these colonies. Of course, it's going to spread around. You still actually have leper hospitals and leper colonies in places today in Asia, in India and China. And there's even a couple of hospitals that lasted in Japan all the way up until the early 1900s. So this idea is not completely behind us. But I do have a couple of images, and since somebody brought up Baldwin IV, Baldwin IV is one of the more famous lepers of the ancient world. He was a king of the Kingdom of Jerusalem, and it's really hard to find actual pictures of him because he didn't live that long. He was only 22 when he died. This is in a what we call an enlightened manuscript. Sorry, not enlightened manuscript. Goodness gracious, what's my word here? Goodness, I have lost my words. A manuscript with lots of really cool pictures in it. Anyway, so this is Baldwin.
That works for me.
Yeah, pretty manuscript. This is the story of his life, which is written in French, old French. But you see here Baldwin illuminated. Thanks, David. I knew you knew it. I know it too. I just can't say the words. Anyway, this is young Baldwin with the priest finding out that he has not tuberculosis, that he has leprosy. Baldwin IV was played by Ed Norton. There we go. In the movie Kingdom of Heaven, which is not a good movie if you're trying to understand the history of the time. It's just not a good movie. I mean, as a movie, if you completely disassociate it from history, it's a pretty good movie. But if you know anything about history, you watch it and you go, ugh. I don't know if that Baldwin can catch leprosy. So, he is a mouse, but not a real mouse. Maybe if, like, Baldwin turned into...
He may be used to grow leprosy organisms.
If he becomes a real mouse. I want to be a real mouse! For those of you that don't know, David Peterson has a story called Baldwin the Brave, which is told in really awesome artwork with mice puppets. So you should go check that out on his world. Just don't decorate it with armadillo hair. Yeah, armadillos are right out. So a lot of people kind of know about Baldwin. He was a king. He was kind of moderately successful. The Kingdom of Jerusalem was sort of doomed from the get-go. He did better than anybody thought. He outlived everybody's expectations. He did die very young, though. He died when he was 22. But if you're actually looking backwards in time and you're trying to find people that have like historical cases of leprosy that are what we might consider notable figures, and I'm not trying to insult everybody that was alive that doesn't show up in the history books, but people that are notable because of their being remembered through history, but also having leprosy, there aren't that many. But one that I knew about, and I'm not sure if you all know about, is a guy named Otani Yoshitsugu, who was a contemporary of Hideyoshi Toyotomi, Oda Nobunaga, Tokugawa Ieyasu. He lived from about 1558 to about 1600 in Japan. He was actually a close companion of Toyotomi Hideyoshi. He was a commander of one of the armies that got sent over to Korea when Hideyoshi was trying to conquer Korea. It didn't go so great for this guy. But he's in a lot of the really big battles of that period of time that's called the Sengoku period of Japan. And he was a leper. There's actually a lot of stories about how people shunned him and treated him differently, except for the noble people that recognized that they weren't going to get sick. So, they sort of stood up and said, no, he's a guide, he's a smart dude, and he's a brave warrior. And you know how the story goes. So the leprosy in a lot of the historical accounts of Yoshitsugu are actually sort of using the leprosy as his sort of foil almost, and he overcomes it and is very brave. So look this guy up if you're interested in learning some more stuff about him. But all right, so that brings us to the wrap-up. This is the time where how do leprechauns fill into all of this? Well, if you catch one, you can use all of the gold that he has to get an insurance plan in the United States, which may or may not cover pre-existing conditions, assuming that Obamacare still exists in the next 5 years. And you might actually be able to pay for the multiple drug program that's out there, because everybody knows that prescriptions get marked up bajillions of percents against what they're worth. So that's where the leprechauns fit in. Catch a leprechaun and you might be able to afford getting healed from leprosy. It won't be enough for the deductible. Don't get me started on that. All right, ladies and gents, and everybody else. So if you have any questions, now is the time. If you want to spend any channel points, please make sure that you do so. You can check those out by clicking on the little adventure hat icon that is below you. I found this very interesting talk. I knew it was going to be interesting as soon as everybody started suggesting it. We're going to call up the puppy. Where is the puppy? Oh, here she is. She's asleep.
Right next to you.
Well, she was under the table a minute ago. Kaylee, come here. Come here. Oh, she just yawned at me. Her response was yawning at me. Come here.
Come see Kaylee.
You want to come up right here? Come up right here.
She was close to me.
Oh, she's got a stretch. Hold on. She was so deep in sleep.
You come see me? Come see me.
Come on. Come on.
Come on. No, it's a good girl.
There's the puppy.
Oh, yes. Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Oh, the love.
Oh, yes.
You want to look right here and say hi to everybody? Oh, that was a good look. Oh, Kyle has asked for Brittany to wear the adventure hat. So
I don't have any adventures.
you've been on historical trips with me and done historical things.
I don't remember what you said.
That's awesome. Well, just tell a story about something that happened while we were out on a history thing. Or doing a history thing. And I've already told the most embarrassing one where I fell down the Indian Mound, so...
You've put me on the spot.
Now you know how I feel when people summon the.
Sit down and think really hard about funny, weird stuff that's happened to me on adventures, and then
Tell the story about how we got lost in Rome when it was raining.
we got lost in Rome when it was raining, and it's like I can't elaborate. Like you can draw out stuff like I don't know, add flourishes, and I'm not good at that. I'm not good at that at all. I'm sorry, I'm letting everybody down. I'm going to turn this back over.
Were we completely down? Like the stream cut down? Did we go down for everybody? Oh, I'm back.
Streamlabs was very disappointed with my inability to. Oh yeah. Oh, okay. So it cut out the part with me. So I was telling an epic story. It was so good.
Do
You
not
missed
let
it.
her
I'm
lie to
sorry.
you. She
I'm
was
sorry. It was amazing. I cried a little.
she was clutching the entire time, trying to figure out a story to tell.
Oh well, sorry guys. Missed it.
So I will put on the hat and I will tell a story of us. How about that? So we were pretty broke when we got married, living off of what I like to call
I'm Spartacus. I'm Spartacus.
I am Spartacus.
I am Spartacus.
I'm Spartacus. I'm Spartacus. I'm Spartacus. I'm Spartacus. I'm Spartacus.
I am Spartacus. Do I have to do the whisper thing again? Did people get freaked out by that? I am Spartacus. Anyway, so we saved up basically all of the money that we could from basically all of the things that we could scrap together. And we went on our sort of late honeymoon about 4 years after we actually got married to Italy. And once a week we had this thing called date night where we usually just set aside one night of the week. Usually it's Wednesday night, and we either watch a movie or play a video game or go get something to eat. But that's not necessarily a thing anymore, going out and getting food, that is. But for date night, when we were in Italy, we sat beside the Grand Canal in Venice and ate at this little Venetian bistro, which was absolutely delicious. One of the best meals in my life. I
drank a half liter of wine in one sitting.
by herself,
Yes.
by the way. Are we booping now? Did I get rated and not know it? Did I miss a raid? Or are people just popping in saying boop?
Boop troop.
Welcome, Boop Troop. Do you guys even boop? Bro, do you even boop? Think it's random? Okay. Well, anyway, so I had a lot of food. Brittany had a lot of food.
And a lot of wine.
She had a lot of wine.
A lot of wine.
And it was a good night. It's still today the most expensive meal that we've ever had. Was it like I think it was about 120 euros because we ate like pigs. We had all of we had shrimp cocktail and they do it way differently than we do. And then 2 entrees, and we had tiramisu and all of this wine for Brittany, and it was really friggin' good. Yeah, I did actually have squid. I had squid. Brittany had some sort of chicken cooked in wine white sauce thing. So
Yeah, that sums it up.
yeah, there we go. So there's your
And it's
adventure.
right on. Did you say it was on the Great?
Yeah,
the
we were
Great
sitting
Canal?
like right on the side of the Grand Canal. Super great night. Very, very. What's the word that I'm looking for here?
Surreal.
No, it was like a good old fashioned romantic comedy. There you go. So there's that. And I also saw that we got a random history fact requested, but it didn't come with a particular, I guess, request though. So random history fact: Hippocrates was not the only ancient Greek medical writer. There's another guy that probably wrote actually a lot of the stuff that's attributed to Hippocrates, and his name is Galen. So check Galen out. There you go. There's a weird little historical fact for you. All right, ladies and gents, I do apologize for the drop. I did not notice that we had gone down. So sorry. Let us see if we can. Oh, you know about Galen. Awesome sauce. There we go. Let's see if there's somebody that we can raid. For those of you that do not know, the normal streams, and I say normal as in the regular streams that happen every week, are done on Thursday nights at 7 p.m. Central. And this coming Wednesday, we're going to be talking about the collapse of the Bronze Age, which is something that we've sort of been setting up for about 4 or 5 weeks now. And it's going to be a good one. I'm looking forward to it. So, going to be a good time. And thank you all for being here, as always. Oh, no problem, man. People voted for it. That's why I do these. I do them so that I can talk about, or we can talk about, stuff that you want to hear about. Because it's not just about me sitting here talking to you about what I want to talk about. It's just as much about what you all want to hear, right? So that's why I do these. I really enjoy these. They are challenges and they're fun, but I definitely enjoy them. So we have options right now for. I actually thought about Fall to Pieces as the title, but I didn't know if anybody would catch it. Weekly Government COVID Lies. Oh, man. Calm Heart. I think I'd have to take, like, blood pressure pills before I came into that one. Oh, man. Government Lies would be an entire stream. Okay. So we have two options for a raid. We have Cat Videos, whom we have raided before. Let's see what Cat Videos is doing. Cat Videos is working on a picture of a pink snake. So there's that. And we have friend of the channel who raided us last week, Art of Lee, who is working on an ArtStation challenge where he's drawing a sort of a guy in a giant mech suit kind of thing. Table Titans is on. I don't actually follow them, but that might not be a bad raid. That's just at Table Titans, isn't it, David? Will Smith is making a case for a game system. Not that Will Smith, though. What is Table Titans doing? Are they doing their challenge draw thing? Let's raid Table Titans. Let's see if I can do this manually. Dungeon draw. Awesome. Is it /raid at... Okay, so everybody, we were about to raid Table Titans. For those of you that know anything about webcomics or the history of webcomics or anything like that, you might be familiar with PvP, one of the sort of, I guess, kind of original good old-fashioned webcomics. Also had a very brief running animated show. The creators behind PvP are now running a new web series called Table Titans, which sort of incorporates a group of D&D characters and their in-game characters as well. Really interesting how they blend that back and forth. Does a really good job. But they also do something on Tuesday nights called Dungeon Draw, where they get a lot of their artistic inspired friends. They come up with a theme from the crowd, and then they all have a challenge to draw that particular theme. So we're going to go raid Table Titans. If you would, please remember our battle cry, which is adventure. And if you have them, please make sure you spam all of those beautiful little adventure hats. I really appreciate everybody. Thank you for those who followed. No, we didn't have any follows, but we had some subscriptions. Thank you very much for the subscriptions. I really do appreciate those. That money does go to help make the stream better. You all are awesome. I appreciate it. If you want to send me thank you fan mail, you can do that. But if you also want to send Brittany fan mail, you can use my email address and send Brittany a thanks. So Scott Kurtz is pretty much the history of webcomics. Yeah, he's a pretty important guy. So, all right, off we go to Table Titans. We're going to yell adventure.
Bye.
We're going to throw some hats, and I will see you all Thursday night at 7 p.m. Central to talk about the collapse of the Bronze Age. Oh, yeah, I like the little summoning the adventure hat. All right, see you, everybody. Thanks very much for coming by. I'm going to throw up the outro screen, and then I'm going to hit the raid button. So, see you all around. Thanks very much.